In this episode of John's Arcade, we're going to rebuild a Gottlieb power supply. Yes, the one you find in Qbert, Mad Planets, Reactor, Krull, Qbert Cubes. Yes, that one. And it's a pain in the butt, and we're going to rebuild it in this episode. And we're also going to talk about switching power supply adapters in those games. And then we're going to come back to the table and do viewer mail. And lastly, guys, this is the last week. That's right, the last week to order your John's Arcade t-shirt. So if you guys want one, you need to go to teespring.com/johnsarcade. That's TEE spring.com/johnsarcade. You've got about 7 days left. Once the campaign is over, you cannot order that shirt again. So go to teespring.com/johnsarcade. All right, guys, let's get on with the show. Hey guys, we are in the basement, and today we're gonna do a John's Arcade tech video. That is right. In this video, guys, we're gonna fix stuff in the basement. And yes, the basement. No, we're not going out to the garage in this video. I know in the last video I kind of gave you guys a choice. I said, hey, do you guys want to work on Jump Bug in the garage today, or work on the Gottlieb power supply in the Mad Planets? However, and I did want to go in the garage. I did want to work on the Jump Bug, but it's in the 30s today. It's just too cold. So instead, we're going to do something that I've been trying to do for like the last couple of years, and we're going to rebuild the original power supply in my Mad Planets. Now, everything that we're going to do in this video also applies to Qbert, because Mad Planets and Qbert use the same power supply. This is it right here. This is the original Gottlieb linear power supply. Now, I want to talk about a couple options that you have with these games, because you have Qbert and you have Mad Planets, and again, they're both using this same power supply. Now, ArcadeShop sells a modern switching power supply adapter kit that works in Qbert and Mad Planets, okay? It's a great modern solution for these games. However, it's not without its compromises, because the original power supply outputted, well, 5 volts and 12 volts, I think negative 12, and then also 30 volts, okay? 30 volts. Now, the modern switching power supply adapter does not output 30 volts. So what does that mean? Well, that means that you're powering the knocker in Qbert with 12 volts, okay? The knocker, because if you guys remember, in Qbert, if you fall off the level, or if you knock the snake off the level, a coil fires, like a pinball coil. It fires, and you hear like this thud sound. It's a great part of Qbert. But if you put the switching power supply adapter kit in there, you're powering that coil with 12 volts. And that coil is actually looking for 30 volts, so it doesn't have enough power, and you can barely hear the thud. It's like ink, ink, okay? So that's kind of one reason why I don't like that switching power supply kit. The other reason is the audio amp, okay, in the games are looking for 30 volts, okay? So in Mad Planets, right now, I have one of the switching power supply kits in there, okay? And I put that in there because, well, my game was acting goofy. It kept resetting, right? And I couldn't figure out what was going on with it. I actually tested my power supply several times, and the voltages always seemed okay. However, when the game warmed up, I think the voltages were going out of spec, and it was causing the game to reset. So to deduce that it was a power supply issue, I actually removed this and then put the switching power supply kit in there from ArcadeShop. And as soon as I did that, my reset issues went away. So I believe, and I'm pretty confident, that this power supply needs to be rebuilt. However, after I put that switching power supply kit in there, now again, remember, the audio amp on that game is looking for 30 volts. That switching power supply kit is sending 12 volts. And all of a sudden, as soon as I put that kit in, my audio quality was like lo-fi, okay? Now, Mad Planets has an awesome soundtrack. It's like one of the coolest games ever. Like the audio, the music is really badass. And as soon as I put that switching power supply kit in there, it sounded like tinny and like just lo-fi and not really good quality. And I was like, oh man, this kind of stinks. So I've been meaning ever since to rebuild this, and we're gonna do it in this video and get our voltages back. Now, and again, going back to the switching power supply kit, I said that thing was not without its compromises, mostly the 30 volts. That's not powerful enough to fire the knocker or power the audio amp. However, but this power supply, this linear power supply, is not without its compromises too, because this thing is not very well designed, okay? And that's why we're gonna rebuild it, and we're gonna upgrade one of the parts on here, because there is this Zener diode here, okay, that goes bad, and when it does, it could take out the audio amp, okay? And so we're gonna upgrade this with a part from Riptor's rebuild kit, okay? And we're gonna use the Twisty Wrist arcade rebuild kit in this video to rebuild this guy. And as a result, we're gonna upgrade this Zener diode, because this is gonna be upgraded to a 27 volt diode. And I think originally it was a 24 volt. I don't remember, but we're gonna upgrade it with his kit. And so basically we're gonna go through this entire thing and upgrade all these parts, replace these capacitors, replace these transistors here, replace a bunch of the diodes, and we're gonna go through the entire kit and rebuild it. So first things first though, I wanna take you guys over to Mad Planets and kind of just show you what's going on right now. And I'm not really even sure that you guys will hear what the thing's doing through the microphone, but the audio right now is kind of lo-fi, and maybe we'll get a good before and after, I don't know, but so it's probably impossible for you guys to hear this over your computer speakers and through my microphone. But the audio quality right now is noticeably tinny and lo-fi. I do think though that if I played this game in a vacuum, I would never know the difference, but I know the difference because it just sounds completely different than it did before I put that switching power supply kit in here. So that's why we're gonna rebuild it. So let's go in the back here, and I wanna just kind of show you guys what's going on with that switching power supply kit, because you guys do need to know this is another option, and if you're in a pinch, it's an okay option. I'm not sure if Qbert is better with the audio amp, but on Mad Planets, I really noticed the lo-fi-ness. So anyway, let's go in the back of the game and let me show you how it's installed now with that switching power supply kit. All right, guys, we're kind of back here behind the game, and yeah, this is a mess back here. This is a basement. Okay, so we're gonna have to kind of come in here with our key and open up the back door. I think it's this key. Nope. Let's try the other one. Yes. Okay, so let's open the back door here. Okay, so here's the kit installed, okay? And so basically it has a very high quality HAP power supply. This is actually the power supply I really like, and I screwed it to the wall up here. And then it has this little adapter board where you plug in the little connectors that it would have went to the original power supply, okay? And that's pretty much the setup. It's not hard to install at all. You do need to run 110 volts up to it, and you can see these red wires here, and I tapped into the power going to the monitor right there, okay? So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna undo this, okay? We're gonna disconnect everything here because we're not gonna use this anymore. Assuming that I do successfully rebuild the power supply, I'm going to be using that going forward because I just don't like the lo-fi sound. So I'm going to go ahead and take this off. It looks like I just have like maybe a couple screws holding it in. There's one right there. Actually, I think there's just one screw holding it in. Is that right? Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get this off, and then we're going to go to the bench then and rebuild that original power supply. But again, you can see here, this was not hard to install. I don't know if you guys can clearly see what's happening here, but basically all I did was I screwed this power supply to the wall. I put their adapter in. The game's off right now, by the way, so I can safely touch this. I put their adapter on here, and I plugged in these 3 connectors, or actually 4 connectors. These were originally in the original power supply. I just plugged them into this board and then ran AC voltage to it from the monitors. So that's it. So all right, let me remove this, and then we're gonna go to the bench and get to work. Okay guys, I have the, well, I pulled out the switching power supply adapter kit, but yeah, this is basically all it is, okay? And by the way, these power supplies are my favorite ones. These are the HAP Power Pro, I don't know, this is the premium one, and I pretty much use these whenever I use adapters, especially like on MCR games and on Qbert. But again, it doesn't output the 30 volts that we need for the sound amp, so I'm pulling this out. And also, by the way, I want to tell you, I believe what we're doing today works with Qbert, Reactor, Qubert's Cubes, Mad Planets, and Krull. Because you can see this adapter kit works with all of those games. So what we're doing in this video applies to all of these games, assuming they're using the same power supply. And that's Qbert, Reactor, Qubert's Cubes, Mad Planets, and Krull. And then it says here the power supply is labeled MA303, MA430, and MA492. Now, I do know that MA492 I read was a power supply that did not output 30 volts. It outputted 16 volts, and that's what the sound, that was the type of sound amp that was on the game. Now this though is a MA430, and this one does output the 30 volts. So we're gonna go ahead here with Riptor's kit, which is really designed for the MA430. And so here's this kit right here, and basically all these parts, these transistors, these resistors, and we're just going to basically go through the whole list and replace every part, you know, that's highlighted in yellow. And Riptor does a good job with the documentation. He basically gives you a scan from the manual that has every part that you're going to replace highlighted in yellow, and then you can look down here to see what the part is. Now, I did notice right away that so Q11 and Q21, which are these guys right here, one of them is a 2N3055 and the other is a 3846, but if you look at the manual, Q21 is 2N3055, but Q11 is a 2N5879, and these are these transistors here. And so he sent me, Riptor, a 2N3055. Okay, that's great, that matches the manual and what's in there. But he also sent this 2955, MJ2955. I did some research here, and he's using this part number for location Q11, which the manual says 2N5879, but his is labeled MJ2N55. We just need to keep that in mind. I researched this though. This part is in a modern equivalent to what's listed here in the manual, and you're going to find that a lot where you're pulling off a part that has one label on it, and you're putting on a part that has a different label. You guys need to be careful of that, just to make sure. What I would do is research it before you do it. Make sure that they didn't send you the wrong part on accident in the kit, okay? Make sure that what you're putting in there is compatible with the part you're pulling off, and that maybe it's just a modern replacement. And if you go on Riptor's site and you look up Q11, he's calling it this part here, MJ2955. So that's what he's using instead of the 2N5879. Anyway, all right, let's get to work here. So I'm just going to basically just hit this thing, and I'm just going to desolder every part and solder the new ones on. And we'll do the first few parts together here, just to kind of see how it's going to go. And I'll probably show you guys some of the more unique parts as we go along, like changing these bottle cap type transistors here. Why don't we just do those ones do these ones first here. All right, so we have these two transistors, and let's do this one first, the 2N3055, okay? And you notice right away there's screws right there, one there and one there. And on the back we have nuts and then two solder joints. So let's go ahead and desolder it first. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add some new solder first. And I've rebuilt these before, these power supplies, and I seem to remember the traces always getting lifted off very easily. These are not very high quality boards. So when you're soldering and desoldering on these Gottlieb boards, you got to be careful because it's easy to lift traces. So don't use a ton of heat. All right, so I added some new solder, and I'm going to come heat up our mixture of new and old and just kind of suck it up with my soldapullt, okay? And this is the desoldering tool that I like to use. I know that everyone always wants me to use a desoldering iron, and I'm so used to using this thing. And this is cheap, and I do okay with it, so. All right, so I think we're pretty much desoldered there. Okay, so let's get a screwdriver. Let's pop these, we're gonna pop the screws off from the other side. Now, I wanna point something out here on transistors, just so you guys are aware. There is kind of polarity on here, okay? if you guys can see, these two legs are off center, okay? So if we use this as reference, okay, they're favoring this side, okay? So that's the direction they're gonna go in. And let's look at our replacement, okay? And if you look on here, you can see that these legs are more up towards this side, okay? So when we put it in, it's gonna go in like this, okay? We don't want it to go in the other way because look at that. See how the legs are more. It doesn't work. You won't even be able to put it in the other way, to be honest. But just pay attention to this on these transistors, these bottle cap style transistors, and you'll deal with these transistors when you're replacing HOTS on monitors. 6100s use these, the color vector monitors, these style transistors all over the frame. So when you work with these types of transistors, just know that there's a right way and a wrong way to put it in, and you just got to pay attention to which side the holes are favoring. And so you can see here, these two legs are favoring this side, so when we put it in, it's going to go in like that. Alright, let's come up on the top here. And let me just pull out a little bit here. So let's just unscrew this. Okay, so there's one. Get the next one here. See if I have a better standard screwdriver here. I need some kind of nut driver or something. It's like spinning on itself. Hang on a second, let me get a tool. I'm just gonna come in with my needle nose plier and hold on to this nut. There you go. Just enough to break it. Alright, so let's pop these two screws out. Okay, so we've already desoldered this. Let's see if it comes off. It's not. So let's come in with our soldering iron here. So I'm going to take my screwdriver and just kind of put it under it and see if I can wedge it off while applying a little bit of heat on the other side. Actually, it's falling off now. There we go. Okay, so it's coming off. Okay, so we have the old one off. And let me show you guys something here that you need to know. Okay, so this thing has an insulator on here that it's called a mica. See this here, this little clear thing? And so our new one comes with a new insulator, so we're going to use that, okay? Now notice on here, though, we've got all this white gunk, okay? That is heat sink compound, okay? And I have some right here. And you can buy this, Bob Roberts, anywhere, you know, on the internet. This is CT40-1 by Chemtronic Silicone Heat Sink Compound. And I always have this on hand for these types of things here. So I'm going to come in here. I just want to kind of clean it up. I'm just going to use my hand. Okay, you could see the stain mark there. I don't know if that's heat or what, but it probably is, because this whole thing here is a giant heat sink. And you can see how it heated up on there. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of this on both sides of the mica. So I'm going to put a little on the device itself here. Okay. And this stuff's really messy. And try not to get it on the legs. And then we'll take our new insulator. And I'm going to put just a little on here. Okay. And then we're going to come in here and put it back in. You can see the holes are towards the right here. Okay. And so I'm going to put it in basically the same exact way. Okay. Okay, so we'll take our screws. That heatsink compound is messy, and I have it kind of everywhere right now, but alright. So let's come on the top here and tighten this up. Okay, there's one. And there's two. Alright, so we got it screwed down. Now we need to solder it. And it looks like I didn't get any heatsink compound on the legs themselves, so we're okay. Alright, so let's come in here with my soldering iron. And I'm just going to apply heat to the leg. On one side, and then come in on the other side and add my solder. Okay, there's one. And there's two. Okay, so that's the first transistor there. You know, just kind of double check our work. Looks pretty good. And there you go. So I'm going to go ahead now and replace this one exactly the same as that one. And then this part here, well, the one that was in here on my board was a 3846. We're going to be replacing it with Riptor's new part, which is a 2955, an MJ 2955. So I'm going to go ahead and do that one exactly the same that we did same way we did that one. All right, guys, I'll be right back. Okay, guys, I have the second transistor on here, and you can see they're both on. Again, make sure you put that insulator between this and the heatsink, because you don't want to short that to this. It'll cause all kinds of problems. So make sure you put the mica, which is the insulator between the part and the heatsink, and then put your heatsink compound on both sides of that insulator. And you can see on the back here, we can kind of double test our solder joint here. I did put maybe a little bit too much heatsink compound, and it kind of interfered with my soldering a little bit on this side. But I'm pretty sure that I got a good solder joint. But if you want to double check it, you could put your multimeter on continuity and touch the top here. Don't touch the solder, touch the part above the solder, and just follow the trace to where it goes, and it goes over to this leg, this pin here. So that's a good solder joint, and then this one goes over here, and that's a good solder joint. So, okay, we're good. All right, so we got those both those transistors in here. So let's move on to the next part, and I'm going to take my pen here and just kind of cross off on the list the ones that we've replaced. Okay, so why don't we start here on U41, okay? And U41 is, according to the list, a voltage regulator, minus 12 volts, LM320, okay? So let's look on our board here, and let's look for that part. So it's this guy right here, okay? And that's U41, and the part that's in there right now is this guy right here, 7912C. So let's look at our new parts, okay? And the item numbers, they all have different part numbers here. So here's 7912. And so U41, just double check our work, is, well, on here they're calling it an LM320, but the actual part that's in here is a 7912, and this is a 7912C. Okay, so that's the right part. Okay, so let's so to remove these three-legged transistors here, you can try desoldering them. You can break them off. You can just kind of wiggle them like this till they break. And then pull the legs out. So there you go. So I just broke that thing off. And notice that there is kind of a polarity here. They're showing... Just got to make sure we put it in the same way. So it was kind of in there like this. And on the drawing, they're showing this thick line as being the heatsink side. So it's going to go in just like that. Alright, so we just broke that off. So let's come on the other side here. And we've got these 3 legs. So I'm going to go ahead and just apply some solder here. And see if we can suck the legs out with our soldapullt. So what we're doing right now isn't really hard. It's just time consuming. There's about 25 parts. So you just got to kind of take your time here. It's really common sense. You do need to pay attention to part numbers though, because like I said, the manual here is calling this part a LM320. The part we removed from the device, from the power supply, was a 7912. And Riptor's kit came with a 7912, so we have to assume that a 7912 is compatible with the LM320, and it's essentially the same device. Okay. And I had no problem there sucking out those legs, because remember we broke the part off. And the holes are clear. This one is being a little stubborn though. Let's put some more solder on here. I think we got a leg in here. Yeah, we do. Get my pliers here and see if we can pull that out. So part of the leg is in here and it's kind of being a little stubborn to get out. There we go. There we go. Okay, so all 3 of those are clear, I think. Let's see, this one doesn't look quite clear. There we go. Okay, so we've got that opened up. So let's take our part. And again, I'm going to double check 7912C. And we're going to be putting in a 7912C. And then the drawing, this thick line in the back represents the heatsink. So it goes in just like so. See that? And then we're going to turn it over and solder it. I'm just going to kind of hold it in there like so, and we're going to just tack it real quick. I'm just putting some solder on my iron. And I'm going to come in here and just kind of tack it so it'll stay in place. I'm going to do the other side here. Okay. So now we can just put this down and it won't fall out. So these traces are really kind of thin and there's not a lot of meat on them. So we got to make sure we don't bridge the pads together. So I'm just going to come in here. There's one. Let's get the middle one. There's two. And then we'll do this one again. Okay, let's double check our work. It's in there a little crooked. Guess it doesn't really matter. And I think that looks pretty good. Alright, so I'm going to take my side cutters now and trim those back because it's too long. And we want to cut above the solder, okay? Just like so. Alright, so we've got that three-legged transistor in there. So I'm going to go ahead and do the other ones because we have two more right here. And I'm going to go ahead and do these exactly the same way that we did that one right there. And I'll be right back. Okay, one thing I want to point out here, okay, so I was looking at U31, and the part that's in here right now is labeled LM340T, okay, and that's U31. And if we look on the manual, U31, yep, LM340T. Well, there's no part in the kit labeled LM340T. So I had to go on Riptor's website and look at his parts list for this kit. And at U31, he is using this part here, which is labeled 7812, okay? 7812. And I look at his website, U31, 7812, plus 12 volt regulator, okay? So that's this part right here, 7812. So again, you're going to have to do a little bit of research if things don't jive, okay? Because this is not jiving. This part number matches the manual, but doesn't match anything that Riptor sent me. But if you go to his website, you'll see clearly that he wants you to use this part, the 7812C. Now, I trust him that this is a compatible part. This guy's actually on the ball, so I'm going to go ahead and put this part in its place here for the LM340T, and I'll go ahead and do that right now. Same way we did this one, except this time I'm going to do it straight. All right, be right back. All right, guys, I want to show you something here. So I just soldered this transistor on, okay, and I made a mistake, okay. I bridged the two pads together. If you guys can see this, and get focus. So right here, I bridged these two pads together. If you guys can see that. Let's see if I can get some good focus going here. Okay, so visually it was kind of hard for me to see, but I took my multimeter and I put it on continuity, and so if I test these two here, those are not bridged, but if I test these two together, they're bridged. These two legs are shorted to each other, okay? And if I come over here and compare to like this one that we did, you can go to leg here, though that's not shorted to it, so that's fine. This one, not good. So I have to come in here and remove that solder and resolder this because they are bridged together. So you gotta be careful of that when you have these pads that are really close to each other, that it is easy to bridge them together. And you don't want to do that because that will cause a short, okay? So I'm going to come in here and just remove some of this solder, actually most of it, and then resolder this. And this is the stuff that you want to catch while you're working. You don't want to be troubleshooting later after you're done and discover that. So I just removed all that solder. So if we were to come in here now to test it with my... now they're not shorted together, okay? So let's go ahead and resolder this. And I'm going to use less solder. There's one. There's the other. Okay, so now let's test it again. Yep. Okay, so that's in good. Let's test these two. Okay, so that's in there good. Okay, so we can go ahead and trim this off. So I just trim the legs off right there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do the last one. You can see this time we put that on straight. So let's go ahead and do this last one right here, same way. Okay, actually, Q12 is the next transistor we're going to do, and it's actually right here, and it has this little heat sink on it. I almost popped this off. I started rocking it back and forth, and I'm like, wait a second, am I supposed to replace that one? This one is not in the kit, and I almost broke this off. So guys, be careful here. Don't assume every part is in the kit, because every part is not in the kit. And this part right here, SCR11, is not in the kit. So don't just start rocking that one back and forth to pop it off, because then you won't have another part to replace it. So I almost did that. So the next one here is actually Q12, and it's hiding underneath this heatsink here. And this here, you can just kind of bend it up a little bit. See, and then this thing pops off, okay? And they've got some heatsink compound on there, and that's Q12. And if we look on here, yes, we are going to replace Q12. The part that's in here right now is a tip 3, looks like a 1/8, and the part here I have is a tip 3/1. Oh, it's a tip 3/1C, okay? And that looks like a tip 3/1B. Okay, so let's cross-reference that on our list here. So Q12, according to the manual, is a tip 3/1B. Okay, and then the part that Reactor gave me was a tip 3/1C, and let me look on his website just to confirm that. And we're talking again about Q12. So on his website, Q12 says tip 3/1B. Well, I'm going to assume that a tip 3/1C is the identical part, and in fact, I'll Google that really quick just to make sure. Let me go check. Okay, I just Googled this, and I actually found a thread that Reactor made on Qubes saying that this is an upgrade part, the tip 3/1C. Okay, so originally it had a tip 3/1B at Q12. Reactor's website actually says that it includes a tip 3/1B, but he made a post on Qubes saying that tip 3/1C is in his kit, and that is an upgrade part. So we're going to go ahead then and use the tip 3/1C. Now, I'm going to put this on after we put the part in here. So let's see. Or actually, I have to get this out. So let me let's break this out, and I'll desolder it. And I'm going to go ahead and just do this like I did the other ones. So I'll be right back. But just keep in mind, tip 3/1C is going to go to on Q12 here according to his kit. Okay, we have this transistor in Q12. I'm going to go ahead and put the heatsink back on, and you should have some heatsink compound in here. You could see that the original one did. It's going to be a little tricky, though, because I need to put it on the back of it, and I'm just going to, I think I'll put it in here. See if I can do this without making too big of a mess. So I'm going to come in here and just kind of squirt a little, keep it towards the back. There we go. And then we're just going to slide this right onto our transistor, which is pretty much how I found it. Like so. And there you go. It's on. Okay. Alright, so now we've replaced those two trannies, and then these three. We did not touch that one. Remember, that one we don't change. Okay, so let's move on. And I'm going to go ahead and cross off on the list here the stuff that we did. So we did that guy, we did that guy, and we did that guy. Okay, so let's what should we do now? Should we do the capacitors? So we've got 1, 2, 3 here, and then there's 2 big ones. Let's do the caps. So the big ones, these are 2200 UF, 80 volts. Okay, and I think it's pretty obvious where these are going to go, right here, okay? So these are 22 UF, 75 volts. So it's okay to replace them with a higher voltage rating, but the microfarad value, the 2200, needs to be the same. And you can see technology has gotten smaller as time has gone on. These are exactly the same capacitor. This one's actually rated a little bit higher voltage, but it's half the size of the original. And there is polarity. Okay, so you can see here there's a stripe, okay, and there's minus signs, okay, so that's the negative side, okay. Normally on a capacitor, you have a longer leg and a shorter leg. So this one here, you could see the shorter leg is negative, okay, and the longer leg is positive. That's typically how a capacitor looks when you're doing like a cap kit on a monitor. These have a little bit different form factor here. They have shorter leads. They kind of grab onto the board. And so, but they've clearly labeled, though, which one is negative, and it's this one here. And if we look on the board, we can see that on the old caps, this side here was labeled positive, okay? So the positive leg is going to go on this side, and you can see on the board, too, there's a plus sign, okay? So plus is going to go on that side, and then minus will go on this side. So it's very important that you put these in the right way, that they do not go in backwards, okay? So let's go ahead and desolder these, C14 and C33. These are exactly the same value, both 2200 microfarad, 75 volts, and we're going to replace them with 80 volts. And so we basically just have these 4 joints here, and I'm going to go ahead and add some solder on the back side here. And let's see if we can zoom in a little bit while I do this. So I'm going to go ahead and put some solder on here. So are we having fun? I know I complain a lot. I do sometimes feel like I always complain, like, oh, I really don't want to do this today. But, you know, this is just busy work. It's not hard. None of this stuff's really hard. It's just, you just got to pay attention to what you're doing. And just take your time. It's time consuming. It's a little monotonous, a little repetitive, but none of this stuff's hard. And you know, when we're done with this, you know, our matte planets will be ready for the next 20 years, hopefully. And you can see they bent the leads over here because it's such a big part. See that, how it's bent over? We're going to have to bend that back to get it out. And you got to be really careful with these Gottlieb boards because the traces really like to lift up. So we're going to have to be very careful when we bend that back up. So I'm going to come in here with my needle nose pliers, and we're going to bend this leg up here. So I'm going to just kind of, see if I can do this. Just heat this up. Try to do this without lifting the traces. Boy, that thing's really on there. I wonder if I should cut it. I wonder what's going to be easier. Okay, I'm trying to see how that's on here. I think I'm going to cut that. See if I come in here with my side cutters and just do that. And then do the same thing over here. Yeah, that's going to make our life a lot easier. There you go. It just fell right off. So that's the first one. So let's go ahead and clean these holes up real nice. And actually, they're already clean. All right, good. And it looks like there's 2 sets of holes here. There's 2 and 2. And if you look at the back here, it doesn't really matter which ones you put it through. It's just a function of how the part fits in. So our positive is right here on this side. Okay, it's labeled on that side. So let's go ahead and put this in. Just like... Oh, I'm putting it backwards. Hang on. Negative goes towards this side here. Okay. So it's in there. Just like so. So let's go ahead and solder this down real quick. Just going to kind of fill this whole pad with solder. That's how the other one was. Kind of being generous with the solder on this one. Doesn't really matter. It's a giant pad. So, okay. All right, so we have the one large capacitor replaced, and we'll double check our work. Positive is on that side, okay? Our negative is on the opposite side. If we look at the original part, you can see positive was here, negative was here, and that's exactly how we have it in. So I'm going to go ahead now and replace this one too. Okay, I have replaced both of the large caps here, and they're both in the right way. Positive, positive, negative, negative. So let's move on to these guys right here. So these are 470 UF, or 470 microfarad, 35 volts. I know I say UF because that's how it looks like it's written, the symbol. It's technically microfarad, but it looks like a U and an F, and I know it's not, okay? So 470 microfarad, 35 volts, and if we look here in the kit, 470 UF, microfarad, 35 volts. So again, technology has gotten smaller over time. So the original was big and the new one is small, and these are both the same value. So let's go ahead and replace both of these. So let's do this one first. I'm going to come back here and just desolder this. Okay. And again, I'm just adding new solder. Let me kind of get in here. So I'm going to add some new solder here, and then use my soldapullt to get it off. And by the way, what we're doing here, you know, is a very shotgun approach, okay? I'm not going to sit here and test every component to figure out where the fault is on this power supply. You know, this thing is 30 years old, so we're just going to shotgun it, okay? Because maybe we find one part that's bad, and then we replace that and we get it back up and running. But you know what? A month later, another part fails, and then another part, and another part, because this stuff is just old. So there's really no sense. I mean, you can, you know, sit here and try to figure out which resistor or diode is bad or which capacitor and replace only that part. I think, you know, with this kind of stuff, especially when there's kits available like Reactors, you know, you're better off just kind of shotgunning this stuff. And that's what we're doing right now. I think we have another bent over leg here. Yeah, we do. Don't like that you really shouldn't do that when you're soldering stuff, like bend the legs like all the way over like 90 degrees, because if you ever want to get it out, it's not easy. All right, here we go. Okay, we got it out. I kind of wiggled it from the other side. Okay, so just kind of taking a look here. There are 3 holes. It doesn't matter though, because these 2 holes go to this whole trace. Okay, so let's turn it over. Our positive is on this side right here. Okay, so let's take our new cap. And again, on a standard electrolytic, I guess, capacitor here, you know, negative leg is shorter, positive leg is longer. Okay, you see that? Negative is shorter, positive is longer. And so if we look at our board, the positive is on this side, so we're going to put the longer leg towards the positive side. And then, just like so, just double check. Negatives on that side, positives on that side. And that's how it's supposed to go. And what I do is I usually bend one of them back, like so, okay? Just to hold it in place. And then I'll come in here and solder, you know, this side with the leg straight up. Okay, hold it, let it cool, and then come in here and bend this leg back up. And then apply our solder. Okay, so we've got that one in. I'm going to come in here now and just trim the leads off with my side cutters. And again, just cut above the solder. Okay, so that's one has been replaced. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to replace this guy right here, and then also this one right here the exact same way. And again, positive goes to positive, negative goes to negative, and that's it. So I'll be right back. I'm going to replace these two right here. Okay, guys, we have all the capacitors replaced here. So we've got that one, C41, 31, and 12. So all the caps have been replaced now. So I crossed them off on our list here. So let's move on. Let's do these resistors. There's resistor 21 and resistor 22. And according to the chart, they are both 1.8 k ohm 2-watt resistors. And I look at our kit here, and sure enough, we have 1.0 k ohm, 5% tolerance, 3 watts. So this is an upgrade part. Originally, it was a 2-watt. He's upgraded them to a 3-watt. So what I'm going to do, and by the way, this is the original, how the original looks. That's the original R21. And this one had the bands on it. These are like ceramic style with the actual printing. But if you were to, you know, compute this, the brown, the gray, and the red equals 1.k. And the gold is a tolerance, which is 5%, meaning the value can be plus or minus 5% of what the stated value is. So, all right, so we need to remove this guy, resistor 21 and resistor 22. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to cut it off like so. And resistors, you know, there's no polarity, so it doesn't matter like how you put them on. So you don't have to pay attention. There's no right or wrong way. Basically, you just need to get both the leads in there. So, all right, so let me come on the other side here, and let's desolder these guys. What I'll probably do is I'll probably add some new solder, desolder, and then pull on this side with my pliers and just pull the leg off. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and add some new solder here. And really, this is no different than the other parts. It's just a different kind of part, so I thought we should film it. Again, resistors, no polarity. You can't put them in backwards, unlike capacitors and diodes and transistors. And let's come in here. My thing's all plugged up. I kind of need a new soldapullt, I think. I've had this one for a few years. It actually still works pretty well. It does get plugged up a lot. Like right now. Yeah, see right now it's totally plugged up. And so what I do is I open it up, right? And you just kind of twist it here. And right now it's kind of hung up. Let's see. Wow, it's totally hung up. So it's kind of jammed up with solder. There we go. Oh, did I just break it? Shoot. Okay, there you go. And then what I usually do... Oh, shoot, I just dumped the solder on my desk. I usually come in here like this and just get the plug out. Just dump it in my garbage can. Just put it back together. It doesn't feel like it's perfect. Alright, let's try it again. Yeah, I think that's a little better. Alright, so let's come back in here. Actually, is that already open? Yeah, it is. Okay, so we've removed that resistor right there. So let's go ahead and get our new one. And again, this is resistor 21. And I'm going to double check my my list here just to be sure. I'm just being cautious. Resistor 21, 1.k ohm, 2 watt, and then we're going to be putting in a 1.k ohm, 3 watt. And again, doesn't matter how it goes on. There's no wrong way. It is a good idea to kind of have the resistors sitting above the board a little bit, just so they can get some airflow underneath. Kind of keeps them cool. And we can kind of pre-bend these guys. Should we do that? So if I take my needle nose pliers, and I kind of bend some nice right angles here, like so. So now, if I put it in, it's a nice clean installation, okay? And I think it is a good idea to kind of have it just elevated about 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch above the board, because these parts really get hot. And if we can give them a little bit of an advantage by being above the board as far as cooling goes, I think it's a good idea. All right, so let me get my soldering iron going here. Let's get some solder on the tip, and I'm going to kind of just tack this on there at a nice elevated height. Okay, and let's go ahead and get the other side tacked. Okay, so I just kind of tacked it on there, and it's just sitting above the board a little bit right there. And I'll go ahead now and just kind of do the real solder job. Hopefully it doesn't fall while I'm doing this. Let's get this one. Let it cool. Okay, there you go. We have resistor 21 in. So I'm going to go ahead now and do resistor 22 the exact same way. Okay, I have R21 and R22 in. I'm going to go ahead and replace R14, R13, and R12. Those are included in the kit. R14 and 13 are 12 ohm 2 watt resistors, and then R12 is a 100 ohm. Okay, so here's our 12 ohm right there. That's how they look in the kit, and there's our 100 ohm. So you can see there are different types of resistors. The ones that are in here now are these kind of plasticky looking ones, and the ones we're replacing are like ceramic style. But they're the same value and the right value. So I'm going to go ahead and replace these three, and then we'll be right back. I want to show you guys something here. So I just cut these resistors off, R14 and R13, and I'm getting ready to desolder from the back. Now I noticed here that someone did some repair work. Now I did not do this. This is a previous owner here. Someone had worked on this. So this trace here looks like it had lifted at some point, and someone installed a jumper wire. Do you see that little wire right there? So when I put this back together, I'm going to make sure I also do the same thing, because this pad here might be bad. So do you see that little wire? So I'm going to do the same exact thing when I put it back together. So, all right, let's go. Okay, I have the two resistors in. However, I want to show you something. So here I have them right here, okay? And I have them sitting pretty high just so they can kind of keep cool. But remember we had that jumper that someone installed? And if you look, this pad, this solder pad is completely blown out. There is nowhere for me to solder on the underside of the board for this leg, okay? And this leg, this trace is connected to this one next to it. So we're going to have to add a jumper wire. So I picked up a little piece of lead right here, okay? And this was just something that we trimmed off from a capacitor or a resistor. And I'm going to use this. I removed the old one. It was covered in a lot of solder and stuff. So I'm going to use a fresh piece. So this little piece of leg here was from a resistor or a capacitor that we've already soldered. And I'm going to go ahead now and just jump. I'm basically going to solder this to the leg where the pad is blown out. See that there? That pad is completely blown out, okay? And I'm going to come in here, and we're going to just basically solder, create a jumper. I might have to trim this down a little bit further. I think it's too long. Just take a little bit off of here, because I don't want to jump this to anything but these two leads. And I think that's pretty good right there. So I'm going to come in with my soldering iron, and I'm going to try to just kind of push this into this leg and See if we can solder these two things together here. Just like so. Alright, so we kind of have it on there. I'm going to have to come in with my pliers. So that's actually soldered to that already. So let's come in here. And this can be tricky though. Okay, so let's hold that together. Alright, so we have a jumper wire going from here to here, and then ultimately it goes to here. So let's see if we have some continuity between these two. That's good. How about from here to here? Alright, so that jumper is doing its job there. Can you guys kind of see what we did? Kind of zoom out here. So we added, because this trace was blown out, we added a jumper wire connecting these two legs, and then ultimately it goes over to this spot right here. And if we do a continuity test from here to here, we have continuity. And if I do a continuity test from here to here and then here, we have continuity. So we know that this is good. This work is good. We have continuity, and I think that's it. We're done. We repaired that bad trace with a wire. And if we wanted to, we can kind of come in and, I don't know if this is really necessary, but just kind of trim this back even further, just so it doesn't touch anything else. But that looks pretty good. Let's see. It's on there well. Alright, so we'll go ahead and cut this down. Okay, so we have those two resistors in. And those are the 12 ohm. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead now and replace this one right here, which is 100 ohm. And I will be right back. Okay, and we have all of our resistors swapped out here. We've got R21, 22, 14, R13, and R12. So we're all done with the resistors. So let's move on to the diodes. It looks like we need to replace all these right here, which is D31, 32, 33, 34, and 36 over here. And if we look on the manual, you'll see that all of those are, let's see, 31 through 34 and 36, and then 41, 42, and 44. Let's see, are we going to change all those two? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How many did his kit come with? So the manual says that 31, 32, 33, 34, 36, and then 41, 42, and 44. 44 is right here. Okay, so what is Riptor's intention here? Let me look on the site. And, because I only seem to have 6 of those diodes. So he wants me to change... those are optional, 31 through 34 and 36. So according to his kit, it's 31 through 34 and 36, and we're not going to change the other ones for some reason. And those are supposed to be 1N4004, and if we look here, that's this guy right here, 1N40004. Now, diodes have polarity, okay? There is a stripe on here. And on this kind, you can barely see it, but it's on the left side right here. Okay, and if we look at the original ones, you can see the little band. It's on the left side there. Okay, so we have to be sure that we observe that polarity. Okay, so all of our stripes need to go to the left on 31 through 34, and then on 36, the stripe goes to the right. If you guys can see that right there. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to cut this off. So I need 5 of these guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 6. Interesting. Let's make sure these are all 4004s. 1N40004, 1N40004, 0004. And just because these parts all look identical, we can't assume that they are all the exact same part number. And there, yeah, see this one? Oh, no, this one is. Okay, these are all 4004s. So he gave me 1, 2, 3. We have 6 of them, and we're going to change 5 of them. Maybe we should change this one too at 44. I think so. Looks like that's the only one. Okay, so we have 6 of these actually. 41, 42. Oh no, 41 and 42 are not part of this, were they? Let me double check here. 41 and 42 and 44 are 1N 4004s. Let me check his site here, because it's not really... Yeah, he is listing all of those. Did I lose some of these? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6 of them, and it looks like I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them. I'm missing 2. All right, let me poke around in my little kit here and see if I can find the rest. Okay, I looked around and I can't find 2 of these. I lost 2 of these somehow. Now, I've had this kit. I bought this kit probably a year and a half, 2 years ago, and it's been in a bag opened in my drawer, and I think the parts might have fallen out. And I looked on Riptor's website. He actually doesn't even list these diodes as being part of his kit. And if you look at his Clove post about this, he lists these as optional. So I have 6. And we need 8, okay? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So what we're going to do is we're just going to replace 6 and cross our fingers that these 2 right here are good. And I'm going to make a note that I did not replace those on the board. And but I'm going to go ahead and replace these first. 31, 32, 33, and 34. And the bands are all on the left side, okay? And I'm just going to come in here and just cut all these off. Okay, and you can see on the board the band is labeled there on the left. It's screen printed on the board, and if we're to review the parts we just removed, these are indeed 4004s. Okay, so let me grab. Actually, I need to desolder all these out of here, and so let's come on the back side here, and I'm gonna go. Why don't we just do the first one together, and really no different than the other parts we've replaced. So I'm going to go ahead here and let's add some solder. Here and here. And then let's take our soldapullt. You know, I need to get a new soldapullt. This thing is hosed. Yep. You're falling apart, John. This thing has clogged up on me like 4 times tonight. So, just so you guys know, it's the next day here. So, I did not finish this Sunday night, and so it's Monday night here, and I plan on finishing this. If my tools don't break. Alright, so let's come in here. I think it's time to get a new one of these. Alright, let's come from the top here and pull that off. So I'm going to heat it from the back. And then just pull the leg off. You can use a vise to do this. They make like a PCB vise, which is really handy. See, these leads are bent. Okay, there's that one. And let's get this one here. Okay, there's the other one. Okay, so we have that top one cleared. So let's go ahead now and grab one of our diodes. Okay, and so let's look here. Oh, shit. Hope you guys saw that. I was zoomed in kind of far. So the band is on the left side here, if you guys can see that. And if you look at the screen printing on the board, the band is on the left side. Okay. Band is on the left side. So let's take our diode and put the band on the left side, same way. And I think I'm going to take my pliers here and just get some nice right angles going here. Okay, that looks pretty good. So let's turn it over and solder it in. Okay, so we've got that one in right there, and I'm going to go ahead and trim the legs. I'm just going to cut right above the solder, and that's it. So we've replaced one of the diodes. I'm going to go ahead and do the next 5 exactly the same way as that one, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I went ahead and replaced all of these diodes, and I made sure that all the polarity was correct on each one. So the band is on the left on every one of them here. The band on this one is on the right per the drawing on the board. And then over here, the band is on the left per the drawing. So I want to go on now and replace these diodes, which is D21, 22, 23, and 24. Now, I noticed here that in the manual, those parts are labeled as 1N5401, okay? Riptor's part is a 1N5402, okay? I double-checked his website, and he is saying to use these parts at that location. So I'm going to assume that it's an upgraded part, and I'm going to go ahead and just trust him on this. So I'm going to go ahead and put the 1N4502 in the location where the 1N4501 is, because again, Riptor on his website says that these go in that location. I'm going to trust him on this and just put those in there. So I'm going to go ahead now and swap those diodes exactly the same way I did these ones. Again, the polarity, the band is on the left-hand side. So I'm going to cut them off, desolder them, and then solder the new ones in, and I'll be right back. Okay, we have all these diodes replaced right here. So let's go on to the other diode right here. This is the big one, the Zener diode here at D26. This is the one that usually fails, and you could see how the board is all burnt up here. So I'm curious if this part's bad. The Zener diodes, I don't quite understand how they work. I think they allow voltage to flow one way, but when it reaches a certain voltage, it can flow the other way too, as kind of a safety thing or something. And the original one was 30 volts, and Riptor's part is 27 volts, which I think is a safety feature, because instead of it letting go, because basically the limits of all this is 30 volts, so he's just kind of knocking it back, because when it gets around 30 is when this stuff starts smoking, I guess. I don't know. You know, I don't fully understand it, to be honest, but I know that this part here is the one that fails, and originally it was a 30 volt part. If you look at the manual, it was a 30 volt, 5%, 5 watt, and then Riptor's part is a 27 volt. And this is, I guess, something that he found was the way to go. So I'm going to attempt to measure this. I'm just curious what kind of measurements I get if I put it on diode test. Might not get anything, because this is not a standard diode. So I got a reading that way, and I don't get a reading this way. So I think this part actually might be good. Let's see. 0.66. And then I get no reading the other way, which is what you should get on a diode. And let's compare it to our new part. We get no reading that way, and we get about the same. So I think that diode was actually good that we just pulled off there, because the reading was almost identical. It does look like some work was done on this board, so that part might have been replaced by someone else before me. But it's okay, no harm. Let's replace it again. I mean, we're shotgunning here, and like I said, this power supply was working. It's just that over time it would start locking up. So there's something up here with this thing. Something is out of spec, and hopefully we fix it here. So all right, so I'm going to go ahead and replace this diode. It's exactly the same as we did these over here. And what I'm finding here, honestly, is if I flush these leads if I cut these leads really flush, they pretty much just fall out on the other side. And so they're actually working pretty well, because whoever worked on this board at the factory really bent over all the legs like everywhere, and they've been hard to get out. And so I've been cutting them flush on the top and then desoldering from the back, and they're just kind of falling off. So, all right, I'm going to replace this diode, and I'll be right back. Okay, we have the D26 replaced, which is that Zener diode. I actually went ahead and replaced D12 too, which is right here, this little tiny guy. And D12 is another Zener diode. It's a 5.6 volt. It's a 1N4734, and it's a super small part. And if you look, you can see the stripe, and you can see the text on there saying what the part number is. And it is indeed that 1N4734. So I went ahead and put that in there, right there, the D12. And so we've got all of our diodes replaced. There's actually one more here, U11. And I kind of went a little rogue here and cut it off. So this is another Zener diode transistor looking thing right here, U11. And you can see it's screen printed with the shape. And here's the original part. It has like a flat side on one side that's facing towards the fuses here. And you can see the drawing with the flat side. And there's 3 holes. And here's the new part, okay? And if you look on here, you could see that the part does match. It's a diode, programmable Zener, a TL431. And if I look at the part, it does indeed say that. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in. I've already desoldered. Actually, I got a little bit of a leg here, don't I? I have one hole that's not completely cleaned out. Let me clean this out all the way. This hole right here. These are very small holes with very teeny tiny legs that are in there. So we're almost done. This is the last part. There's actually one more part. Oh, did that trace just come off? Son of a gun, did it? I think it did, yep. Alright, so we've got a lifted trace here. Kind of. Most of it's actually there. Alright, let's see what happens when we solder that part in. Okay, so we've got some of this trace here is lifting, okay? And let's put this in. So it's Monday here. I started working on this Sunday. And I had to stop on Sunday because the night was just ending. And I'm kind of running into the same problem here on Monday. It's after 9 o'clock. And we're not done yet. And I have to edit this video and upload it. Ay, ay, ay. This is taking me forever. It's just a lot of tedious work. Soldering and desoldering. Okay. So that's in there. So that's U11. Alright, so we got to be careful here because we got a lifted pad. So I might have to repair that. Let's see how it behaves. And we're going to be soldering right... Where did it go? Right here. See if we can kind of get in there and you guys can see what's going on while I do it. Right there. Okay. But this is very time consuming. I have to tell you, you know, it's very tempting to just say, hey, let's just use that switching power supply adapter and be done with it. And the thing is, I don't even know if this is going to work. You know, I'm assuming that that we are replacing something on here that's bad, that was causing me my troubles. But when you do these kits and when you shotgun stuff, there's no guarantees, guys. You know, just because you get one of these kits, it doesn't mean that you automatically just fix it by doing the kit. Your odds are pretty good. You know, I think the odds are with you, but it's not a guarantee. So I'm going to test here to see if we have continuity between here and here. And we do, because there was a little piece of that pad left. that we're just kind of hanging on to. Tempted to just throw a little bit of a jumper on here. It's a little risky, not too risky. I just don't want to bridge any of the other stuff here next to it. I wonder if I should do this. I don't think it would hurt. It's a little too long. So I'm just going to add a little piece of wire here because this pad is just not very healthy. And I just kind of soldered onto this pad, and I just got like a little tiny piece of it. So if I can just kind of add this piece of wire here to kind of make up for that, I think it'll just be a little more reliable long term. There we go. So I'm going to get my screwdriver. Okay. And of course I grabbed the screwdriver that had heat sink compound on it, and I got it on the board. Alright, so that looks pretty good actually. Okay. So I'm just going to do a little quick continuity test, make sure that these aren't bridged. They're not. And I've got complete continuity from here to here. Okay, that's good. So let's go ahead and trim this. Okay, so we got one part left. A part that actually I was thinking about not even replacing, but Riptor's kit includes this variable resistor here, and it's this little pot. And this right here is the pot that we use to adjust the 5 volts, okay? And you just turn it, you know, and he includes a new one. Now, I'm a little concerned about how this goes in because I'm assuming that this is the same form factor, okay? Because if you look in the back here, there's 2 different ways that this can go in, and it's using these 3, not the top one. Okay, I think that's pretty straightforward. Actually, it doesn't matter. Oh, I see. You can have it go either direction because these 2 are on the same plane, aren't they? Let's see. Yep, and then, well, they all are, because there's continuity between it. This and this are the same. Okay, so let's go ahead and replace this part. So we're going to have to desolder these 3 right here, and then we're going to remove this variable resistor right there. And then here's our new part from Riptor. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. So I'm going to desolder this, and let's get that part out. Okay, so I desoldered the old one here, and I'm going to put the new one in basically exactly the same way I took the old one out. I don't know if it really matters, but it was pretty much like that. And we're going to have to adjust this after we plug it in the game. But I'm going to put it in just like so, which is exactly how I pulled the other one out. So let me go ahead here and just solder this real quick. So this is it. This is the last part. Okay, we bend these legs up here. Okay, so we got our variable resistor in here. Just make sure that the legs aren't touching each other on it. And they're not. Right there. Okay. Yeah, let's go ahead and trim the legs back. Okay, so we're done. We've replaced every part per Riptor's kit. We did not replace D41 and 42. So what I want to do here is I'm going to get my label maker, and I just want to label this. And you know what? You do this kind of stuff, and I'm telling you, like 2 years, 3 years, 4 years down the road, you'll be glad you do stuff like this. And I've been trying to get better at doing this more because I forget what I've done to these games. And I'll look at a game and I'm like, wow, did I rebuild this monitor? And I draw a blank. I'm like, I don't know if I did. It looks like I did. But did I do it? Was it 3 years ago? Was it 4 years ago? Was it 2 years ago? I don't remember. So I'm going to go ahead and just do rebuilt space. And then I'm going to put in 03... 3/1 5. Okay, and then I'm going to say D41, delete ship D41, D42, no replace. I'm not sure if this label is going to be obnoxiously long, but let's see. Okay, so we've got our label here. And I'm just going to stick this on here like so. And then the John from the future will see this and know exactly what's going on. Because I don't intend on selling this game, so I think the next person that's going to look at this after we get it working is going to be me. Okay, so let's shake off all our parts. Rebuild 315, D41, D42 did not replace. Okay, so we're pretty much done. There is one thing I want to do here. I want to reflow the headers on this, okay? I'm pretty sure I did this before, but I was looking at this, and a couple of these looked really suspect. Like this one right here did not look good at all to me, but I'm not sure. So I'm going to quickly reflow all these header pins while we got the board out, and might as well. You know, if we're going to rebuild this really is something that you should do. When you have parts out, you know, you really should reflow headers. Just make it part of your life. And, you know, if you're pulling out a monitor chassis or anything, even some game boards, you know, that if they have headers and stuff, it's just a really good idea to do this when you got the game on the bench and it's easy to do. But like this one here looks really bad. And just be careful that you don't add too much. You don't want this stuff to bridge. I'm going to actually get rid of some of this because I just don't like how this one looks. So I'm going to come in here and just add some completely fresh solder. And so when you reflow the headers, really all you need to do is just heat up the old one, okay, and just add a teeny tiny bit more of new, okay? And be careful when you're doing this that you don't bridge the headers, okay? Don't put so much solder on there that you've basically soldered two adjacent pins to each other, because that's going to create a short, and that's going to just wreak all kinds of havoc on your life. So it's really important that you have, you know, decent lighting And get a magnifying glass if you need it, if you have trouble seeing stuff close up. But I'm just going to go through here and heat all these up. This looks fine, but let's just do this one too. Okay, so we have some more here. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead here and just reflow all of these headers, and I'll be right back. Alright guys, I have reflowed all of the headers on here, and we are officially done. This thing is rebuilt and ready to go in the game. However, that's all the time we have for this episode. We're going to stop right here, okay? I'm not going to test it without you guys. I'm not going to do anything without you, but I'm out of time here. It's Monday at 9:30 p.m. I have to stop and edit this video because really I've got a lot more stuff to do because we have to test all these voltages, okay? And I have to show you guys how to do that. We need to adjustify volts. And then also, I want to cap the soundboard. I mean, we're not done here. We got stuff to do still. So in the next video, we're going to put this in the game. We're going to test the voltages. We're going to make everything's working fine. And then we're going to go ahead and replace all the capacitors on the soundboard. And we'll do that in the next video, though. So we're going to stop right here. This is the end of part number 1. And I will not do anything without you. I will not plug this in, I promise. We'll do this together. But we're going to stop. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I mean, that was how to rebuild a Gottlieb power supply. And was it fun? I mean, look at my carpeting. There's stuff everywhere. Solder and leads. We're done with it, though. So in the next video, it'll be a little more fun. We're going to test that. And so why don't we do some viewer mail, and then we can get out of here. And hope you guys liked it. Yeah, and now we got a game down. I mean, it's not really down. We could put it back up. I mean, if our power supply rebuild was somehow bad, I still have the switching power supply to put in there. I mean, that is what's nice about having, you know, parts like that on hand, because that switching power supply, I actually bought that for my Qbert a long time ago because my Qbert was freaking out, and I had thought that it was the power supply. It turned out it was the transformer, and I basically was able to deduce that I was still having issues by putting the switching power supply kit in there. So anyway, let's move on. Let's do some viewer mail. I just printed a few. I don't know how long this video is. I suspect it's kind of long. And then, well, the first one here is from Scott. And by the way, if you guys want to participate in the viewer mail, you need to send them to blkdog7@gmail.com. That's blackdog7@gmail.com. blkdog7@gmail.com. All right, so first one's from Scott Talbot. John, looks like the Teespring campaign is doing great. As I am writing this email, you're up to 209 sold. You can count me in on getting one. Since it will be up on the 17th, I was wondering if you had ideas for a future t-shirt campaign. On another note, you have given me a craving for hard-boiled eggs. I'm glad you like those. I'm currently sourcing material to build a MAME cabinet. I really want to build the thing from scratch. That being said, what style cabinet and artwork marquee do you recommend? Thanks for all the great videos and hope to see you working in the garage as the weather improves. Scott from Ohio signing off, and Scott made me some kind of clever ASCII artwork there. John's Arcade ASCII pinball machine. All right, Scott. So yes, the t-shirt campaign has been a big success. I really need to thank you guys. There is about 1 week left, and that's it. You won't be able to get the current t-shirt design. So if you guys want to get the brown paint John's Arcade t-shirt, you have to go to teespring.com/John's Arcade. I'll put a link in the show notes. But I really want to thank you guys because I did not think that we were going to sell over 200 shirts. I just didn't think that was going to happen. You know, I made the goal like 59 shirts, and I'm like, okay, I think we could sell about 60 shirts. I really did not think we were going to sell over 200 shirts. You guys, thank you, thank you, thank you. So if you want one, you got about a week. Go to teespring.com/John's Arcade. And I think we'll probably do another campaign in the future. I'm not going to do those every week. Just trust me. I'll space them out. Maybe we'll do one in a few months. I don't know. You know, I like doing graphic design stuff, so we'll have fun with it. We can design some shirts here and there. I'm not going to make it something that's going on continuously, but I'll probably do another one. I mean, we probably should do one with Scoot's design with the thumbs up and stuff. I'm glad you have a craving for hard-boiled eggs. Okay, so you're looking to source, he's looking to build a MAME cabinet, and he's wondering what style cabinet, artwork, marquee, etc. do I recommend. Man, that's tough, man, because it's really easy to go wrong with that, you know. You know, if I were to build a single MAME cabinet, I think that I feel like I like vertical games the most. I would probably build 2 cabinets. Okay, I would build one that is in the shape of a Galaga or a Miss Pac-Man that has a vertical monitor. Okay, that would be my vertical MAME cabinet with a 19-inch monitor. And then I would build a cabinet that kind of looks like a Mortal Kombat or maybe even a Simpsons type cabinet, a 4-player Simpsons that has a horizontal monitor. Maybe even a Dynamo cabinet. Like the Street Fighter. I would do a 25-inch horizontal and a 19-inch vertical. They're both equally useful. It just depends what era games that you're really into. If you're into the later games, then you're probably going to want to go with the horizontal build. And if you're into the earlier games, I think there's a lot more good vertical games. At least the ones that I like. You know, Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man, Galaga, Donkey Kong Jr. I mean, on and on and on. Qbert, Tron, Journey, those are all vertical games that I love. Now the artwork, that's tough too, man. I don't know, I would keep it as simple and not gaudy as possible. I mean, maybe even make it look like a game. I don't know, make it look like a Mortal Kombat cabinet, but it's MAME, or just call it MAME. I don't know. That artwork is tough, dude. I've seen so many MAME cabinets that are so cheesy with the artwork, and I've seen some that are okay, and I don't really know what would be good, to be honest. I don't like the word multicade. I don't know, just seeing MAME-cade on the marquee is kind of weird. I don't know. Arcades, I mean, the artwork is tough on those. It's really easy to go wrong. I'd almost rather see, like maybe do a replica Street Fighter cabinet or something, and then have it be a MAME cabinet. That might be cooler. I don't know, that's my opinion. I'm not a big fan of the multi-artwork. It always seems to go wrong. And I even did multi-cade artwork for Phoenix Arcade. I tried to keep it tasteful and clean and classic and not have too much stuff on it. Because sometimes with this MAME artwork, these guys just put logos and characters and icons, and they have no respect for the eras. It's like, you know, they'll have a character from the Xbox on the game, you know, and then someone from the NES, and then Qbert, and then it's just all weird. And they'll grab like artwork that wasn't even from the 80s, but it was like someone drew a Mario in 2010, and they put that on there. I don't know. I see some really weird stuff. So Scott, I don't know if I answered your question, but the next one's from Buford. Actually, Brent. Hey, John, enjoying your videos. I am an Illinois native. I had no idea that Galloping Ghost and GameWorks were up here. I moved here about 13 years ago and plan on making a trip to Galloping Ghost this Saturday to have fun and play games. I work in Schaumburg, but I live in Aurora. I pass by the GameWorks every day and had no idea that Streets of Woodfield had an arcade. Enjoying your videos. I love classic game and had a great time watching your vids. How has this horrible winter been treating you up there in New England? We're trying to thaw out here, Brent. Yeah, Brent, you know, Chicago's got a lot of great arcades. And you know what? There's a new one in Schaumburg called Level 257. It is a Namco branded arcade, and they're calling it Level 257 because that's the mythical level that you cannot get to in Pac-Man, okay? Because the game ends at 256. So there's a new arcade there. It's called Level 257. It's owned by Namco. It's kind of a Pac-Man themed restaurant, but not really. It's kind of a classy barcade, and next time I'm in Illinois, I'm going there, and we might actually have our meetup there instead of GameWorks this year. Maybe we do both, I don't know, but I'm definitely going there. And yes, the winter here has been horrid. Today, though, it was in the 40s, guys. It was like 45, 48. We're getting close to 50. We might be in the garage. Next video is going to be probably part 2 of Mad Planets. But the one after that, we might be in the garage working on the jump bug because stuff's starting to melt now. And I've still got 3 feet of snow outside. I mean, there's literally 3 feet of snow in my yard. But it's starting to melt now, and today was really nice. So this has been a horrible winter. All All right, this one is from Jason, viewer mail. Okay, hey John, I've been enjoying your videos for a while now. They really help pass the time when I'm working on my honeydews. Appreciate the effort you put into them, both behind the camera and in post. So I had this idea to make an arcade cabinet bookcase. Basically, I want to build a bookcase in the shape of a recognizable classic arcade cabinet. I'm leaning towards Asteroids Deluxe or Space Invaders because their shapes are more on the rectangular side, but it's still unique. It would be similar to, say, it would be smaller too, say around 4 feet tall or so by a couple of feet wide. Haven't worked out proportions just yet. I use it to store my game-related books along with my games, NES, SNES, etc., and maybe even a section to hold controllers. My question is this: regarding the artwork, I want it to have side art on both sides and a marquee. However, it's not going to be a standard size cabinet. Probably not even a cabaret size. Where can I get custom prints that won't cost me an arm and a leg? Shopping around, the regular cabinet art can run $100 easy. Ouch, any suggestions or recommendations? Thanks for your time, John. I'll see you in the basement, Jason. All right, this is a fun project. I like this. So he's gonna make a bookshelf that is like a miniature arcade cabinet, and he's gonna use it to store his console stuff and maybe even books. And he's wondering where he can get some smaller artwork printed. Well, you know what? There's a couple ways you could do this. One way, you could contact Rich at thisoldgame.com. You know, Rich is a busy guy though. He's hard to get a hold of, but when you do have his attention, he does really good work. And you could tell him what you want to do. You could say, hey, I want to make a bookcase. The dimensions are, 2 foot by 4 foot, and I want it to have Space Invaders artwork on the sides. And he'll maybe scale down the artwork and print it out on some vinyl and send it to you. I don't think that's going to be cheap. So if you're looking to do it cheap, you're going to have to kind of do it yourself then, meaning you need to go out there and find the vector artwork. I don't know if you're handy with Illustrator or Photoshop, but if you go to arcadeartlibrary.com, it's like arcadeartlibrary.com. There's a lot of vector artwork on there that you can download and then open in Illustrator ideally, or even Photoshop, but that's not a vector program. But really you want to open it in Illustrator. And there's also like VectorLib or something. Just Google like arcade art, and you'll Google arcade art vector or EPS, and you'll come up with all kinds of stuff. And you could probably find the Space Invaders artwork. I know I've seen that there before. And an AI file, and then you could scale that down to your size. Okay, you might have to crop some of it and move things around to get the exact size you want. And then you could take that file, save it as a PDF, a printable PDF, and then send it to Staples. Okay, you could send it to Sir Speedy. I don't know what kind of local print shop you have, and see if they could print that on some kind of glossy stock. Maybe laminate it so it's a little more durable, and you could spray mount that on your wood. I mean, that would be an easy way, a cheap way to do it. I would talk to your local print shop though and say, hey, if I give you a print-ready PDF and I want to print something that's 2 feet by 4 feet, what are my choices for materials? Can you print it on a label stock? Can you print it on some kind of glossy stock that's waterproof and durable? That's what I would do. That's how you're going to save money, because there's artwork out there, there's AI files, there's lots of stuff you can find, and if you're handy with Illustrator or Photoshop, you could probably lay everything out and make it work. So, Jason, those are your two choices. You contact someone like Rich at thisoldgame.com, you ask him to help you, and then you pay a little bit more, or you get your hands dirty, you get the artwork all prepped yourself, and you try to find a local print shop like Staples or Sir Speedy or Minuteman, or I don't know what's near you, and you talk to them and say, hey, if I give you a PDF file, what can you print it on? But I print, like the gyrus bezel back there, I did just that. I laid out the artwork. I found it online. I made a PDF. I sent it to Sir Speedy, which is a nationwide chain of print shops, and I gave it to them. I said print it on glossy stock, and they did. And then I spray mounted it to cardboard and cut it out. So you could do it just like that, and it works fine. It looks like it's brand new. It looks like it's from the factory, honestly. So these digital printers at these places now can do really good jobs, even places like Kinko's. So, all right, guys, that's going to do it for this video. By the way, if you've never subscribed to my channel, now is a great time. I release new videos on Sundays and sometimes in between. Yes, this is the Sunday video, and it's very late. I am sorry. And what else? I have 2 podcasts, Arcade Outsiders and Video Game Outsiders. One is at ArcadeOutsiders.com. The other is at VideoGameOutsiders.com. I did forget to mention, guys, that May 29th and 30th, John's Arcade, Arcade Impossible, and Arcade Outsiders are going to be at Fun Spot. We're having a tournament, okay? So if you guys are on the East Coast, you can come to Fun Spot. I need to make an official post about this somewhere. We're talking about it right now in the John's Arcade forums at johnsarcade.com. We're talking about it on Clov. I made a post at arcadeoutsiders.com. So I need to make an official post with all the details, and I'll share it with you guys. But if you're not aware, save the date, May 29th and 30th. We're having a John's Arcade Impossible Outsiders tournament. It's going to be awesome. So I'll share all those details soon. So save the date. So, all right, that's it. We're done with this video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time for part number 2. Later and bye.